The Third Side of the Coin, brought to you by Excalibur Coaching and Consulting.
Hello, and welcome to the Third Side of the Coin podcast. This is our 13th episode, and today we want to talk about personal reinventing. And if you like the topic, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We also ask that you share this video with your friends and colleagues. My name is Alex Aberly, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Tim Wan. Hey, Tim, it's been a while.
I know it's good to be back and great to reconnect. So today we're talking about reinvention, and it's something I'm going through right now. But when I started to reflect more on it, reinvention, you could also say it's recalibrating oneself, it's pivoting your direction, it's looking for change, all the other things that forces you to do something different or to look for things that you don't have certainty about. And so it's a very interesting process that you go through. One, there is personal doubt. You also have that imposters
Syndrome.
syndrome. That's right. Thank you. And it keeps churning with you in thinking, what do you do next when you have many opportunities before you or no opportunities before you? And that is the purpose of this podcast today, the meaning of reinvention and what to look out for.
That's definitely not only an interesting topic, but I think a lot of people are being impacted right now. As you know, in my coaching profession, I work with people going through transition. This is a very dear topic to my heart. I guess the question is because of the fact that you now are going through reinvention and transition, what are the major challenges that you're seeing personally in your life that you have to experience and overcome?
Good question. I think for myself, that would be, do I still have it in me to start new? Do I still have the stamina because of how things may have moved on? Because after a while, if you work at a particular place for a while, the world does continue on and you're stuck in that process. But the good news is that first, you need to review what you have done, right? Your immediate experience and then the previous experience. And, going through your LinkedIn profile and just looking at it, you see different things that emerges. And what I've done is actually focus on the positive of each section and relook at it, because each time you write your narrative, the last time you wrote a narrative for your LinkedIn profile may have been for some people several years ago, like myself. And when you look back at it, you're there going, wow, I've still moved on that narrative. And it allows you to recalibrate through that. So that's a very easy framework to start off from. The second part was obviously having conversations with you. I mean, one, you're not only a great friend and a bestie, but you're also a professional coach. So, not only do you put a brick in a pillow case and whack me around with it as much, it does give you that voice of reason that sometimes it's very easy for you to rationalize yourself out of it. We can rationalize ourselves out of everything, good or bad. So there are two things. One, review your experience, rewrite your LinkedIn profile, but at the same time, reach out to, if you have the opportunity, to professionals or friends that are able to give you, I wouldn't say well, yes, it is insight, but also to give you the sounding board that you need, at moments of transition, reinvention, or recalibration.
Yeah, those are important steps, and perhaps just even taking a step back for somebody who might not even have a LinkedIn profile. It probably could be one of not first steps, right? Sometimes this is the situation because you brought up very important questions that might go uh, through your mind. Am I still relevant? Imposter syndrome and all of the elements that you've entered, but you're also dealing with grief. Even though you try to push that away, it's hard to basically say, okay, I'm good to go. For some people, it's easier to recalibrate and jump in and start developing the LinkedIn profile. But in reality is sometimes we just need to step away completely from anything professional and just take a little bit of time and take care of our mental health. That is definitely something that needs to be done, because if your mind is not settled on the fact that you are inherently valuable as an individual, because that's my belief that everybody is born with value as a human being. I'm not talking about skills. Until you recognize that, then there's a possibility that the self esteem, the imposter syndrome, as you were mentioning, all of this can interfere with the rational type of response where you can start building or making factually based assumptions of what it is that you are capable of, right? So before you reach that stage, you definitely want to take a little bit of time to basically get yourself to the point where you're rested, right? Even though it's difficult, but you got to go through those stages. So even though, I'm not discouraging somebody to go to LinkedIn and, connect with people, but I certainly say that if connecting with people at first is going to help you get to the point where your self worth or self esteem is restored, maybe start there first. I am glad that you and I have, this connection, but ultimately, if we think of our circle, people are not comfortable to reach out to former colleagues, to friends, and let them know that I really feel gutted. This is just bad. It's okay to do that.
And I really glad you raised that important point of taking the time to decompress and rest. Right. So we're in this overdrive mindset while we're working, and it takes a while for it to slow down. It's sort of like a pressure cooker. You don't, I don't know what everyone, and well, okay, well, a pressure cooker, for those people who don't know what it is, it cooks by pressure, where you have to see it. And if you lift the whistle, it whistles when it's enough, right? If you lift the whistle, it'll go boom. And that's sort of like stopping all of a sudden. And and taking time to decompress, to rest up, and just to allow yourself to give yourself some TLC, tender loving care, me time is so important. I'm so glad you caught that and reminded me of that, because I did do some of it, but not enough. And it is important to remember, coming from what you just said, is um, slow down. You don't have to do everything at once.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, yeah, life doesn't go away if if your expectations aren't met. Another way of saying that is saying life continues, but that has become such a generic thing that it just washes over. And I feel that, just repositioning it and saying life doesn't go away when it doesn't meet your expectations, uh, really does shift the mindset of, yeah, I still have my life and I can continue to live it the way I want to. So it's important for that decompression and that time off that you just mentioned. So thank you for that. And great friends.
Well, and definitely heed that warning for yourself, because there's something I've heard and picked up when you said, I've done some of it, but not all of it. And I know you're already going full steam through the reinvention process, but you're right. You really need to take one step at a time. And unfortunately, from what I am seeing with a lot of my clients who are going through transition, and COVID and pandemic certainly did not help the situation, because in a lot of cases, the individuals have to rethink how they work. So the next, I guess, suggestion is, again, before you potentially jump into full-blown networking, looking for something else, because for a lot of us, it's more than just passion. It's the way to earn the living. You got to have money, no matter how great of a saver you are. You have to continue earning. Is probably give yourself an opportunity. I have a good method. If Do you mind if I kind of suggest that? I know we maybe chatted about it too, but it might help others. What I sometimes recommend for an individual who just experienced some type of, let's say, loss, when it comes to career, or they're looking for something else, it's to start with that self-reflection and ask yourself, looking at the past, job, career, and ask yourself, what did I hate the most? I'm using hate on purpose because I want you to look at the ugliest things that you really disliked at your previous role. And then after you've done that and put together the list of the things that you really, really disliked. I don't like the word hate, but it just works. It works for the person's psyche, to say, I need to be honest with myself. What is it really that enraged me? Or perhaps, did not feed my soul in day-to-day responsibilities. And that's when you start thinking deeper, right? So what did I really dislike? What did I hate? And then the next step is looking at the things that, what do you want instead, right? And that could lead then, as the next step, what do I need to do? Perhaps what I want instead will require for me to gain a certain skill set. Maybe I need to take up on additional, I don't know, online courses or get certifications. I mean, if you have that opportunity to wait a little bit, and instead of just getting anything, because if you're not in a position to be desperate for finances because you planned well, but even if you need something to get in between, that's fine. You still can come up with that next step, because you know what, sometimes you can come up with the solutions of what I want instead, that you did not allow yourself that time while you were super busy meeting the goals and objectives. I mean,
Yeah,
something
no,
to try.
absolutely. It's great wisdom and experience and insights you're sharing there. And also, I I find that uh, as you are decompressing or in the process of reinvention or inventing once or recalibrating, they're listening to yourself, but you may not be listening to others. And that is because you keep listening to your inner voice, as some people say. And it becomes a point where you need to remind yourself is to stop and listen. Uh, Not stop and listen just to yourself, because you do start to like close down around you, but to stop and listen, because sometimes life is just wanting to be heard. And
Yeah.
that's where friends and just everything around you is say, hey, just stop, listen to what's going on around you. And that gives you a broader perspective on everything that's happening around you. And then you'll be able to then make a more informed choice of, well, what is it that I really want? And how is it that I can, finance this lifestyle that I'm choosing? So the choice is always up to the individual, and the response is up to the individual. But let me rephrase that. The choice of the response is always up to the individual, not two separate things.
Absolutely. And I think it goes to, I'm not trying to simplify the whole idea of mindfulness. There could be that your mind full instead of mindful. Your mind is full with a lot of little liars called thoughts and emotions. They are liars. They are not allowing an individual to hear through the noise. It's that noise created, whether it's by grief or by the sense of loss, or maybe the sense of thinking, oh my goodness, what's going to happen in the future? We can't predict what happens in the future, but we can certainly take control of where we are in the moment, and potentially start building some type of strategy of what can we do, right? And so with this said, it just signifies the importance of taking the opportunity to slow down, listen to what you just said going on around you, and perhaps then be able to hear through the noise. And then from practical perspective, you could then look at your, let's say, resume, CV, or LinkedIn, and then say, okay, what type of skills do I already have to satisfy of what it is that I want instead? And that's when you start developing the focus, because unless you develop the focus in what it is that you went, where you want to go next, I can guarantee you 9 times out of 10, you're going to be spinning, going in circles and creating extra anxiety. And then you're letting the job picking you versus you actually picking the job. So there are times where logically you can take a look and ask yourself, what is it? I think I've mentioned that to you before when we chatted offline. What is it that you want to be known for? What is that longer term desire, vision? And it doesn't have to be anything complicated, but I always encourage people, dream big. This is your opportunity. The universe is giving you an opportunity to slow down and actually dream big. You didn't have that when you were working and you were busy. You have it now. So I guess,
And
what
that,
is it that you want to do in the long term?
yeah. I mean, that's everything is like on the mark on that. And I really like how you were saying, you know, when you decompress and think big, you can only think big after you decompress, because you are not allowing the stresses to overtake you. And it was very nice of the reminder of that. If you allow the stresses to overtake you, then you're trying to do everything and get done. And the outcome or the consequences of that may be something that you're not particularly wanting to do. So just becoming aware of the stresses as what you call mindfulness uh, allows you to then, hey, hold on here. You know, I'm allowing uh, all these draining ideas get ahead of me. Now that I see that the draining ideas ahead of me, then I can I can I can slow down. So it's a bit like you're in a supermarket at the grocery store, and you're pushing your trolley ahead, but you see another trolley ahead that's going to go very slow, and all you need to do is get down to the end of the aisle. You're at the beginning of the aisle there, so you just do a Yui, go to the next aisle and race down there. So it's the same thing. It's like seeing the supermarket trolley of energy drainers in front of it. No, I'm not going to go there. Let's maneuver around with my trolley of good ideas and get ahead of it. So I really like the reminders that you're giving our audience out there, saying thank you for that.
Oh, that's my pleasure. But I'm ultimately thinking it's going to be personal for absolutely everybody. There is no decision or no magic formula that somebody can say, okay, you have to do this and you'll get it. But there's some certain steps that I'm going to say best practices loosely. Again, it just depends on the person and what stage of the career that individual is at in the moment. But having the opportunity to relax and then speak with people whose opinion you value, surround yourself with the individuals who do care for you. And that's what probably starts that reinventing process. Just the ability to recognize that your job title, the previous company, none of it really defines you. And that's one way to get rid of that imposter syndrome. The reason it exists is for some reason, we as humans tend to align ourselves to that job title and what we've done in the past. And people who gave us, especially if you had unfortunately happen to have a bad manager who has no clue about psychology, the human psychology, or understanding how to lead and develop people, it happens. Imagine that individual stepping into this empty arena of fighting for that survival, looking for the next job, because and of course you're gonna have imposter syndrome, because maybe for months or years leading to whatever loss, you've been told, directly or subliminally, that something, you might have not done something, and you started believing this. Why? Because all of a sudden you said that job or that person or their opinion defines me. Does it? So do you question that?
Absolutely,
Does it?
absolutely not. Because we spend so much time at work, right, or working, we get confused, and that's the mindfulness. We begin to confuse and mistaken that our job defines us, or our title, or our sphere of influence, or whatever it might be. But in fact, it's taking that inward journey of looking back and, oh, what is it? And that's something that, there isn't really an answer to it, except that it's a bit like peeling an onion. There's so many layers, and yes, you may cry, but you may cry for joy, or you may cry out of misery. I don't know. But at the end of the day, when you add onion to food, for those who like onion or take onion, it makes it far more flavorsome.
Absolutely. It's self-discovery, isn't it? And the fact that, and the reason I even said before, you know, I don't know if people believe, in God or the universe or creator. It really doesn't matter, but there's some type of other power out there that is giving you the opportunity to discover or maybe rediscover who you are. And if you take that time, then you start looking, you see the world differently. All of a sudden, you start noticing things that you haven't observed when you sat in front of your laptop or tablet all day, 12, 14 hours a day when you were working, because you truly were trying to deliver, to meet, customers' expectations, your management expectations. And when it gets to the point where all of a sudden it's no longer an activity that you have, then you're trying to replace it because the mind needs to be filled with a lot of junk. And you forget, because all the valuable learnings and self-reflections get squished. So like you're saying with the analogy of peeling the onion, you really have to say, all right, so this is gone. What is it that I have left in my mind and my entire being that is me, valuable me? Do you remember a while back we've talked about one of the uh, there was one of the learnings based on, one of the sessions at the I can't remember where you learned it, but there was something you attended that's, where you said, I sit on the chair and this is for me, the universe is for me, I have the reason. So going back to, and maybe you can retell that, a little bit, because I think that's super important, because that's a great reminder for me sometimes. How do I convince myself that I am valuable? Well, I am here for a reason. All the things, our relationships are there because I don't know whether it's for me something to learn, but there is a reason for that. Everything that I have, the friends that came and went, there's a lesson learned. So that if you remind yourself from a big picture perspective that you are here not because of one position that you held or holding at a certain job, you remind yourself that reinvention is constant. We're learning. every second of the day, sometimes we don't notice the learning process because our mind is filled with junk, and we make a choice to allow for that junk to exist. Does it make sense?
Yes, it makes total
Okay.
sense. It that being becoming aware of that junk and just becoming aware that this whole creation was created just for you, for your experience, allows you to, besides moving on, but to have a more, not even fulfilling, but a greater embracement, there's such a word, of everything around you. And this doesn't happen as like like that. I mean, it does happen like that, but at the same time, you know, with the theme running through this podcast is take time to decompress, reach out to friends, and just listen. And all these three coming together is really that period of personal reflection, taking real time to reflect and doing away with the mind full and fullness, and taking your supermarket trolley to the other aisle so that you can get to the other end and disrupt it.
Yeah, yeah, no, I love it. And I hopefully it's going to be helpful to our viewers to, who are also going through the transition, because in reality, you're always transitioning, right? Again, going back to every second you're learning something, whether you realize it or not, you are learning something, because eventually, even if you didn't filter it through your brain, because you have so much data that's thrown at you, and we can only capture probably so much if we choose to. So understanding that the definition of you as a human is not based on the past choices maybe that you've made, or the work that you held, or maybe poor experiences that you had with less experienced leaders, if that's concerning the job, or maybe you had bad relationships. None of it, none of it defines you, but it gives you an experience, the learning that you just need to dig deeper. And this is the time to do that when you start the process of personal reinventing. And in the next podcast, we can talk more about some ideas as we're kind of going through our own personal growth to see where we stand, to see what we're doing and how it practically works. How does that sound to you?
I think that's a brilliant way to end this podcast.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Tim. I look forward to our next episode, and I definitely look forward to hearing back in the comments from all of you. And if you enjoyed our discussion, please don't forget to like and comment below, subscribe to our channel, The Third Side of the Coin, on YouTube. And to learn more about the executive leadership and career coaching, resume writing, and organizational development services, reach out to us, or you can go on www.excaliburcoaching.com or join us on LinkedIn. Thank you so much.